Hello everyone. So let's start our lecture 9, which is CSS Grid. And before we start it, let's talk about Grid. So everybody knows Microsoft Excel. It is in the format of rows and columns, which is actually a table content. Okay, so this is rows, and then there are these columns, right? So this is basically how we can say that grid works. Basically, grid sees the design in rows and column way, and everything that is placed is based on the rows and columns presented in the design. So for example, if you have like a navigation bar here at the top, it will be something like this, that it has around you know with menu, logos, and some settings arrow like key here to place it. And then you have like let's say this is a some kind of management application. You have menu here placed like this. Okay, so let's give them different shades. And then you have footer here over here. Okay, so this is how usually the traditional design methods have been working. And this center area will be just a white space where a content will be placed. So you can do this just the way Excel is doing, merge the columns and set, etc, etc. So now, since the latest version of CSS Grid, which is uh, you can say came in 2020 December according to Wikipedia, and its new revisions of that version have come in 2023. So this gives you a very good example that how why CSS Grid is important, because by everybody I mean the designers have realized that CSS Grid is one of the most powerful ways of creating the layout, because it gives you a total control in two-dimensional way, that is x and y axis, like rows and columns, right? So anyway, going further, so let's continue and start with our CSS Grid. So the first thing that we know is that, let's say we have a navigation bar, then we have this vertical menu that contains like the page links for different sections of the web page, like in management system. Okay, so let's first create a parent called module main container. Okay, uh, main container. So this will contain all the sections. Let's say this is a one pager, and let's say it's a management system. There is no scroll down system, all like this, just like this brackets id. There is this horizontal menu, then there is vertical menu, and then this content area which will contain the main editing section. So since this is a management system that we are developing, we can say it's something like containing the main page containers. Okay, so anyway, here we are, dot main container, and width is 100 VW, height is 100 VH, so that we are sure that it is focusing on the main view screen and not the resolution. Okay, so sorry, I'm by resolution I mean that we are focusing on what browser can see. So this whole area is called this, like this dark section is considered as the view screen. Okay, so let's start with the grid. So let's say I write here is display grid. Now the application that I'm developing is working in browser, so DOM knows this is a grid system and not just a generic block system container that will contain different child elements. Okay, so by grid I mean that all the child elements will be working in rows and columns, because if you are not exclusively explaining that the child elements are grid, then it's useless to write display grid. So for that, to explain that the child elements will be in rows and columns, we have to define here grid template columns. So it will design all the number of columns that are possible. So for example, we have let's say class column like this. So this is first column, then there is second column, there is third column, then fourth column, 4 and 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So now I have 9 columns. So I can type here is that all the columns will have equal width. Okay, so it's like saying that there are 9 cells and there will be 9 columns. So auto 9 times 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 and 9. Now the application will consider them as like 9 items. Okay, so let's see so far what we have done. Okay, okay, so now that we have done this, we have to also write that how these columns will look like. So dot column border 1px solid black, um, let me see, everything is fine. Okay, I haven't saved the index.html file. It does not know that I have written 9 columns. Okay, so now there are 9 columns in a single page, and you know that there is by default some margin in the body that is around 8 pixel value, so I'm going to nullify it. Now you can see there are 9 columns. Okay, if I don't write number of columns here, it will simply put the child elements as block and will take the total 100 VW of the width for a single column or single div that is here. That how many I have made? Around 9. So there will be 9 rows like this, because I haven't defined that these rows are actually columns. So this template columns actually defines there are 9 columns, but I want only 3 columns. I will write 3 columns. Now it knows that a single row will contain 3 columns, so there will be actually 3 rows, like and when I say 3 rows, that is how is that possible. um, 3 rows in the first row, 3 rows in the second row, and 3 rows in the third row. So when I refresh it now, you will see here that there are uh, I haven't saved it. Now there are 3 columns and each column contains 3 cells. Okay, so my understanding is that now if we call them cells, that will be more clear to you students and the viewers, whoever is watching the video. So now this is what 9 cells in 9 column. So I have to refresh or rename the column class to, now there are 9 columns. So this is how CSS grid columns and rows work. So if I write here grid template rows and I just write auto and refresh it, so I have said there are only 2 rows. This will not work because I have defined the columns. But if I write 2 rows only and I refresh it, it it will still be working same. Why? Because it says there are 2 rows and each row contains certain number of cells. So it's better to always use columns in the main container here where all the childs will be placed. Now let's do our first thing, that is to create this design in a more proper manner instead of just randomly making cells. So let's say there is this first class that is called navigation. Okay, so this navigation would be something like a first column containing multiple columns. So I can say here is that there are let's say there is only one column in the total application, right? And this navigation, instead of writing navigation, let's talk it cells as before, but this is actually a navigation. So I am writing here id is equal to navigation to make it more clear to you. Okay, so going ahead, this will be cells and id navigation. Now there will be 3 cells inside, so I'm gonna write again cells, class cells, class cells. Okay, but I will also write here is that this is also a grid, so I will write grid nav. So this will be the first grid with nav. So I will write display grid and grid template columns auto auto auto. Initially this is fine, there is nothing wrong, so I'm gonna check it how it works. Okay, so I haven't saved this file again, same thing. There are 3 columns total because I haven't made any more other columns here. So I will write here this grid name is actually of height 10 vh. Okay, so it will be something like this. Now there is this navigation bar with 3 sections. I can write here that the first one is just 10 VW or just 10% of the parent's width, which is 100 VW, and 10% in the last, and center will be the remaining amount, that is 80%. So when I write this, now you can see this has create a navigation placement. Now you can properly put logo in the left column, that is the first column, and in the third column you can put the icon like let's say this area where you write let's say sign out or something. So let's do one example of it. So since I'm going to work on W3 schools idea of logo, so this is actually okay. So let's try some other website that has good logo. Okay, let's try Google, YouTube, YouTube logo. Okay, so I'm gonna just check PNG logo. Okay, so this one is great. So let's say I copied this item and put it in my first column, that is source, and this will be here. Okay, so after doing this, let's see, there might be image overflow. Okay, so we will write here is that dot grid nav image and width is equal to 100%. So now whatever the width will be of the parent will be of its, and this is way too much, so 70 I guess. Okay, 30%. Okay, so this is way too low, 40. So let me check it here, and around 50 is 50 is overflowing. If you have question like why there are more rows inside it, so basically what is happening is that if I write height 100% here, overflow hidden, so it will hide that value. So it's actually overflowing, this image is overflowing the area. So I guess 40 is fine, and if I zoom in and out, there is no issue. Okay, so display the block and margin 0 auto. So now this will be a centered value. Okay, so I can do one more thing is that I can tell it to go 1 em like that, and instead of that then we have 10 5 em, but this is causing the same overflow property, so just go with the 40% for now. Okay, so this is a proper placement of the logo. As you can see, this is perfectly center horizontally, and we don't need to check it vertically like that. What we can do is just increase the width to the certain area. I think 42% is more than enough, so 42% is here. Okay, fine. So after that we have the center area. We can type here is this something like this, UL, since this is a menu section which will contain menu items, so li home about contact. Okay, so mind you that you have to tell it that this is actually inline block, because current right now it will be behaving like a block element. But you can also write is that this is a, I think a float property can also be worked, but I think that inline block is more than enough. So grid nav, let's call it, give it a class menu dot menu li display inline block. Okay, and with that dot menu, margin 0 and padding 0. I think UL has some margin in padding, that's why I'm just doing this. Okay, something is wrong, I haven't saved the index file. Now it's saved. Okay, so now we have 3 menu items here like that. Okay, so the issue is that each one should take 33% of the area, but that will be way too much to keep it equal. So what I'm going to do is, don't use width property, instead I'm going to use padding property and give it some property. 2% is okay to 1.5, and actually the unit of 1% is not working, so 1vh and 2. Okay, I think this is more than enough. Okay, so let's give it this menu li. This is 2 times, put it in ordered manner. It looks really bad like that. So after placing them and refactoring the code so that it looks arranged, let's refresh it. So this is the menu item. So I was thinking that from left right it's fine, but for the parent top bottom 3vh is way too much. So 3vw and 3vh. So now it's proper. Okay, so let's leave the sign out icon here, which is not really much of an issue, but I hope this is very much clear that through this now you have this benefit that the menu is arranged, and the grid is helping you without using flex property or float property or giving them any position like to, so that they are arranged in the same manner in the same place. So the grid is helping you to arrange your layout very easily as compared to using position absolute fix or display flex elements. Okay, so this is way easier and way logical. Okay, so the same case we will be doing for the vertical menu. So this was our navigation menu. So div class is equal to sales. I have removed the sales class, so let's put it back so that we can know through the border there where the sale is going. So this sale will be instead of 2 columns. Yes, the first column will be vertical menu class, and this is also sales, this is also sales. So I'm writing here is that center row, and this will be vertical menu, and this will be content, where whole main content will be shown. So okay, so I'll just write main content. Okay, so center row is 2, so we will write here dot center row. See, actually this is grid name, so these classes will work only for grid name. Okay, so what I have done is create grid inside a grid. So this is the main container, which is also grid. There are 2 grid items. Why? Because we all know that the number of columns in the navigation are different from the center content. So the center content, number of row, let me just repeat it. There is main grid, then there is another grid inside it, and then there is another grid inside it. So what I'm doing is, the first grid contains single column, then there are multiple rows inside it, and each row is actually defining what it will be containing number of how many number of columns it will be containing. Okay, so the first row contained a single column. Okay, so this single column has 3 columns inside it, so this is also a grid, not just a column, but there is grid inside the grid. Okay, same will be the case for the second grid, which will consider of this area, not this one. Let me write I'm not talking about this green area, I'm talking about this yellow and white area. So this is a second row, so this is a second row 2. Okay, and this will be row 1. Okay, so in row 2 there are 2 columns, as I have mentioned. So this is center row, or I can just write second row here, second row, and this will be display grid, grid template columns auto, not auto, because this will be thinner than this area, this white area. So the yellow area should be around 20 VW for now. Then there is auto column. So let's check it, how does it look. So okay, I haven't defined what will vertical menu look like. So dot vertical menu, and background, let's say give it yellow as same as the one in Excel, Microsoft Excel. Main content will be background hash f7 f7 f7. This is very light gray. Okay, so I think I haven't saved one file, that is index.html. I knew it. Okay, so some kind of mistake I have done, so let's check it. As you can see, the yellow section is coming down, so there is some row over here that is causing this problem. So let's check it, whatever the cause is here, this will be our cell row second. Okay, that was a silly mistake I have done here, is that I have given 100 VH to this one, so it has to cover 100 VH of the area. So this area is actually empty space, because it realized that if I put first row here, then last row should come in the last, and the center area will be a void space. So instead of writing 100 VH to the parent, what I can do is tell the second row that your height is around 10 VH for now. Okay, minimum height, so that we can see it easily. When the content is placed inside it, it will be automatically the proper way. So grid nav is 10 VH, or okay, we can also write here 80 VH here instead of minimum height. Okay, and then in the bottom let's put 10 VH for the footer. I hope this much is very much clear over here. Okay, so the vertical menu will have the same UL menu here. For now we can write different content here though, like let's say this is an academia application. I can write course sorry assignment, and then results, contact, instead of contact let's say course material, etc. This will be menu V. So dot menu dash V is list, style type is equal to none, because we don't want bullets here. Okay, so this will be like a vertical menu here, and you can place before assignment like icon to give it a more graphical representation and looking, so that it looks more professional and not outdated design. Okay, so after that we have created this menu over here. We can say let's call it if 2D and color is white. Okay, so background gray. So now this is looking good, but there is one catch that we have to give it some padding so that it looks not so, you know, tightly placed together. So padding 0, padding, sorry, not padding 0, space 2vh. So now it looks okay, right? Now instead of putting gray here, we will write dot menu VLI over and background gray. Okay. Okay, there's some margin over here thanks to the unordered list. So margin 0, padding 0. So okay, that's fine. So menu v class is here. I will write padding left 1VW only, not much, a little bit of. Okay, this is better, but there is this catch of. Okay, so instead of putting it here, I'm gonna put in the list item itself. So 1VW. Not, did you notice that I'm using different unit for the top, bottom and left, right? Second one is for left, right, and 2VH is for top, bottom padding. So okay, this is fine, and now we will write here padding 0. Let me put 2VW. Okay, now this looks good. Let's give it a cursor pointer. You don't need to put cursor pointer in hover, you can just put it here. Whenever you put mouse over it, it will give you a different pointer icon. This, you can see here, the icon is changing. Okay, so this is how you designed it. Okay, after doing so, let's see what else is missing here. If I write 1VW, this looks more adequate to me. Yes, it does look. So 1VW. So this is how we design the item. Okay, so furthermore, let's go with the footer now. So for footer, we're going to create row number 3. Row 3. Div cells third row. Okay. So the third row will be a single column. Display. Okay. Since this is a single column, do we need to put it in a grid format again? I don't think so. So let's just write background black to see if it's covering the whole area or not. Okay, so it's not covering. Maybe I haven't saved one file here. Okay, so now I have to give it some height. So height is 10vh again, because that is what is remaining. You can see there was no need to place a grid again for the third row. Why? Because there weren't any more columns inside it. So this also gives us impression that did we even require grid template in the parent class, that is main container. So if I remove these two things here, by default it will be blocks. So you can see here there is no difference and your grid is still working. So that means only put grid item when you need multiple columns, and our parent had only single column, so there was no need for that. Okay, so see, our code is reduced in main container and now it's efficiently working because there was no need to place the parent as a grid one. So this is how you design your layout. I hope this is very much clear. Okay. Okay, now imagine there is another case we can do. is instead of creating multiple grids inside child, inside child, inside child, what if we use span thing? uh, I hope you realize that I have used merge here. I have merged multiple columns together, and this is around from A to M, so I think they are more than dozen, so or at least dozens. So what I can do is, instead of creating child elements as grid elements, I can tell it that no, I will contain this area and I don't need more than enough, more than this area. uh, by this I mean is that instead of making child elements grid, I can merge the single column into multiple columns so that it covers the adequate required area. Okay, so let's do another way of it. Okay, so for that I'm gonna reset it. So for that, give me some time. Okay, so I took the liberty of pause, and I have set this new scenario where we don't need multiple grids inside grids here. So a single grid will be working here. So for that, display grid, and I'm gonna place 4 columns inside. Okay, so grid template columns, auto, 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 auto. Okay, and these cells will be having border 1px solid lay, and now this border is placed so that you can see that actually there are multiple areas. This was the old one, so let me open the new one. Okay, so again same case I guess. Okay, I haven't defined the height of them for them, so height will be 100 vh for the parent for now. Okay, height vh, and as you can see there is proper design here. Okay, then we know that our first row will have around, if I'm not wrong, 10 vh area. So instead of putting here, I'm gonna write let's set height 10 vh here. Okay, so this is the navigation area. So after that, let's say okay, so going further on, so the first cell is, let's say, cell 1, then there is cell 2, then there is cell 3. So since we are not making the child elements as a different element or different grid element, actually, my bad, so we have to explain it via its child element, that now you will have certain number of columns as you are on. Okay, so cell 1 can be considered as a, it's a merger of 4 columns. Cell 2 will be a merger of 2 columns, just like in Excel. So I'm writing a grid column. I'm saying from 1 to 3 it will have these number of columns. So okay, now you can see here there are 4 columns, and cell 1 is background red. Okay, so everything is going as per the plan. Just I haven't done is that I did not save the file. So what happens here is that I'm just putting gray color here so you can understand that something has changed. This command here means is that from the first cell to before third cell, all the cells will be merged together. Okay, so the 1 and 2 will be merged, but 3 is like the end point. So before third element, I'm merging 2 elements. This is how now this is merging 2 elements. So the same is the case I can do for cell 1, 2, 3. So what I have to do is, cell 1 is okay, it should be first column, but for cell 2 I am telling it you combine with 2 columns. So grid column 2/4. So start from 2 and end before 4. So it will be the merger of cell 2 and cell 3. So it will be something like this, as you can see here. But you can see here these columns are way too thick, and we only wanted was something like till this Netflix tab here. So what we can do is add 2 more columns here and say, instead of going till this, go from 2 to 5. Okay, it's still less. So how much column are there? 4, 5, 6. So I guess till 6. Now it's perfectly fine. Okay, now you can see this area is properly covered, but still I find it very thick, so I can increase number of columns again. Okay, so how many columns? 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. So now I can say till 9, 2 to 9, and combine it. Okay, still 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. So start from here till here. So I guess till 10. Yes, because when I write 10 here, I don't mean that merge the 10th one 2, but before that all the elements. So it will be 2 to 9, and that will be 8 elements. Now this is perfectly correct, but this was for the first one, just cell 1. This is how you designed one. How? Inside cell 1 you have written this is 3 columns. Okay, so how is this 3 columns working? I just said cell 1 is single column, cell 3 is in single column, but cell 2 will contain more than 7 columns, that is 8 columns. So this 10 column is divided into 10, one for the first for logo, and last one for the menu or any other drop down menu, and the center one will be containing menu items, and this is the center area. Now going further, let's say there is cell 4, it will contain vertical menu. So the cell 4 will be something like cell dot cell 4, it will have grid column. Okay, so since logo is way too thin, we want something like 2 times this logo space, that is gray space. So I can write is that start from 1 and end at 3. Okay, so it will be something like this. Okay, I haven't sent again, this is my habit not saving the file. As you can see, this is properly uh, converting the single column into 2, and this is equal to 2 columns. So okay, I haven't write here is height for now, so don't worry about that, we can do that later. Okay, so okay, so I just zoned out, I was working at cell 4. So cell 4 is proper. Then we will now add cell 5, and cell 5 will be start from 3 and end at 10, because till 3 we have done it. Okay, so again I haven't saved the file, and I haven't, my bad, I did not make the copy of it first. Cell 5, 3 to 10. Okay, so start from 3, or I guess start from 2, because 1 to 3 here means that start from 1 and end to 2. Right now what I'm doing is start from 2 and end at 10. Okay, so it will be 9, my bad again. Okay, so something is wrong here, let's see. 1 2 3 2 2 4, let's say, let's check it on inspector. Oh yes, yes, end at 3, but this means that start from 3 and end at 10. 10 or 9, whatever. Let's see, I might be wrong somewhere. 11 here. Why? Because what I'm trying to say is start from 3 but end before 11, because when you write 3 here, it does not mean merge with 3, it means just stop before 3. Even I forget it sometimes, so you guys also be careful about it. Background yellow, and cell 1 is gray. Okay, so this one is yellow, and let's say for grid row is 2 to 10. I think I haven't tried it, but let's see. Okay, then just put height here. So height 90 vh. Okay, so our cell is 90 vh. Oh my bad, 80 will be, because we also want the footer 80, and same will be the case for cell 5, the content area 80. So this is how we designed it. Then for footer, I'm going to write another cell here 6, and this will have nothing in it, just a background color, cell 6 and background black. See how neat and clean this code is. I'm going to compare this code with the older design to show you why this code is way better and more efficient than the traditional methods we have been doing in the class. Okay, so this will be 100 VW, but we have to explain it that it will be the merger of all the columns available. So grid column start from 1 and end at 11, and before 11, sorry. Okay, now you have perfect design of the same layout. So this is how grid system works. Always use grid. Yes, now when I say always use grid, what I mean is that when you want to do your design yourself and you want a complete control over it. Problem with the bootstrap is that it comes with the built-in classes, and you don't know how those classes actually divide the sections. You just write the classes like column 5, column medium 5 or 3, like that. But this one here you can have complete control over it, and it necessarily does not mean this is a good thing. You can still use bootstrap, but I will always recommend you to use CSS Grid, because it gives you a complete knowledge of your website. You know how the grids are designed, and you will never be confused. Even with bootstrap you can get confused sometimes, so remember that. Okay, so this is how a design was created here. So let me show you a comparison with old CSS file that we just did with the grid, where we actually created grid inside a grid. Okay, so this is the grid inside a grid. In the left side you can see here how much lines of code is here. It's around 76, but this code here is only 44 lines of code. Okay, and you can see here there are some irrelevant things like main content, and then there is uh, let's come to the back as main container. Then you have just cell 1 2 3 4 5 6. You just explain those cells that actually require some kind of changes. You ignore the other cells. Okay, so this is the power of using a CSS grid properly, and your code is extremely reduced. I hope this lecture was very uh, fruitful to you, and you learned that CSS grid is also one of the most important factors in modern UI design concepts, especially in web design.